Hi everybody, this video is a review video queued to week 9 and in preparation for exam number 2, and it is looking at specifically how to move from x values to percentiles, or what I typically have called in the past method 1. You can call it that if it helps you remember it. If something else helps you, that's fine too. But this is also queued to the participation sheet for week 9 with respect to the review problems, which is the first section, or Roman numeral 1. And for the first problem we're going to look at, it's going to be a normal distribution with a mean of 17, standard deviation of 3, and I'm asking you to find the percentile beginning with an x value of 21. So this is how you know you're using method 1, if you want to call it that. Okay, I'm starting with an x value and I'm asking you to go to a percentile. So the best way to do this is to, again, recall how we begin whenever we start with any x. And that is, of course, how to find a z-score. Now, I also think it's helpful for you to just get a visual of what we're dealing with here. We know that in this particular situation, the mean is 17, and I'm asking you for an x of 21. So if the mean is 17, and I'm asking you for a value that's greater, as in this case 21, it's going to be on the right-hand side. So we already know that the z-score is going to be positive without even having to check that. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to do my work on the left-hand side. Okay, so to find a z-score, starting with a value, an x value of 21, and again, I'm using this formula right here, okay, using the x value. The x in this case is 21. We're going to subtract from the x the mean, which in this case is 17, okay. Oops, 17, there we go. Let's try that again, okay. And if we subtract 17 from 21, we're going to end up with 4. And then, of course, we're going to divide that by the standard deviation, which here is 3. Okay, we know that 3 goes into 4 one time, and what's left over is 1.3333, which converts to a decimal of 33. Okay, so then we come up here for the z-score and hit 1.33, and that one's done. The percentage, we're going to look on page 42, and if we start with the first two digits, we move down the left-hand side, starting with that z, we move all the way down to 1.3, and then we move across to where it says 0.03, because 3 is, because this 3 right here is also the third digit. So when we do that, we're going to find that we have a percentage of 40.82, okay? Now, I think this is where a lot of students have in the past become a little bit confused or wary when you're talking about the differences between method 1 and method 2. So here's what I'm going to do very slowly for you. Once you've made it this far, you've started with an x, we found the z-score, and now we found the percentile. We look to whether or not we're talking about a value that is positive or negative. And in this particular case, we already started at the beginning knowing that 21 was on the right-hand side, so it's going to be positive. And so how do we find the percentile? Well, if we look over here on the right-hand side, we know that all values underneath a normal distribution go from 0 to 100%. We also know that going from 0 to the midline is 50% of all scores. We also know that for a score, a z-score of 1.33, here's the 1, and then 1.33 is going to be about right here. That's about what we're going to be. So we already know from 0 to the midline is 50%. Okay, and we know that going from the midline out to about 1.33, because we found that right here, is 40.82%. So what are we doing here? Well, since it's a positive value, we're going to say 50. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the decimals on here because we're going to be having those two spots out beyond the decimal for the z-score, or I'm sorry, for the percentage rather. Okay, so we're going to say plus 40. Oops, not a very good 4, is it? 40. There we go. The small 0. Okay, so, gosh. Okay, 82. There we go. All right, 40. 0.82 is going to be added to 50, because we know that from here to the midline is 50%, and since we're going to go out to the positive 1.33, okay, it's going to be about right here. Okay, I'll just put, to give you a visual, I'm going to go ahead and just give you some perforated lines here. So it's about right from here to here. Okay, yeah. So we're just looking for this area between here and here. Okay, just to give you a visual. Okay, and we already know that that's going to be 40.82%. Okay, just make that a little nicer. 40.82. So all we're doing is going from 0 to the midline, which is 50%. We already knew that. That's already there. And then we're going to add 40.82 to that, and it's going to give us, okay, the percentile, which in this case is 90. There we go. 0.82. All right. That will be our percentile today, at least for this one. Okay. 90.82. Okay. Very, very good. Then we're going to take a look at the second problem I gave you for this one. And what I'll do is I will stop here and I will reset everything so we can begin with a fresh, clean template. And now we're going to do another example. This time we're going to take a look at beginning with an x of 6. And if you take a look at where 6 is with respect to the midline, 6 is going to be to the left somewhere. And so therefore, what we're going to have to do is be prepared to recognize that we're going to have a negative z-score. And so we'll go ahead with our formula, which I have posted for you up here. And we're going to say 6 minus 12. Okay, and 6 minus 12 in this case, okay, is going to give us a negative 6. And divided by 2 in this case will give us a negative 3. Now, because we take it out to 2 decimal places, we're going to have a negative 3.00. And that's kind of a nice number to work with because we already know that the negative 3.00 mark for the z-scores is right here. So when we go to our chart on page 42, we can simply move our finger from the z all the way down to where it says 3.0, move over one space, and what we have there all by itself, okay, is 49.87. 49.87. And so what do we do when we have a negative number here, okay, a negative z-score that is? Well, when we take the percentage, and we know that from the negative 3 to the midline is 49.87%, okay, and we know that we want to read the percentiles from left to right, so we want to get rid of all this space in here, okay, you see that? Okay, so that we'll know what the percentile is from here to here, or the percentages from here to here, because it's going to stop at the percentile. So what do we do here? Well, what we can easily do is we can simply take, I'll go ahead and do it here for you, 50, okay, 50 minus 49.87. There we are. So what do we have here? I know, not the best writing in the world, but forgive me. Okay, 4 and 9 right there. Okay, so obviously we're going to have to do some borrowing and carrying. Okay, 4 over here, go with the 10. Nope, we won't go with the 10, we'll go with the 9. Okay, and we'll go with the 10. Okay, we get a borrow from that, so we'll go with 9. Again, okay, 10. 10 minus 7 is 3. Okay, 9 subtract 8 is 1. Okay, and then we're going to have 9 minus 9 is 0. So we're at a really small percentile when we get all the way out there. In fact, that percentile is going to be not even the first percentile, is it? 0.13 is pretty darn small. But again, this is the process for how you find it. And at this point, if you were able to follow along and you did it just the way I did, then you probably came up with the same responses, and you probably are feeling pretty good about where you're at with doing this type of type of equation, and with the method 1, where we begin with an x and work our way down to a percentile.